This is WFO Radio.
Hey, everybody. Joe Castello back with you. WFO. Hopefully you're doing great. I'm doing great. Everybody's great. It's all great as we get ready for the DENSO U.S. Nationals. That's right. The pre-race hype starts now. That's right. But it's not till next weekend. Listen, all these big races out there on the planet, they deserve a couple of weeks of hype, and we are going to hype it up. NHRA's Alan Reinhart is out at Lucas Oil Raceway as we speak. And so we're going to be connecting with him, a little testing ongoing, and we're going to connect with Alan Reinhart. We're going to take your comments, your thoughts about the race, what's upcoming, what lies ahead. It is going to be great. Those of you on Facebook, hopefully you've liked our Facebook page. That's the reason you're seeing this. Share the show, share the link, get it out there. Let's get some people all revved up about the U.S. Nationals. Start a watch party even. If you're out there on the Facebook, if you're on YouTube, same deal. Subscribe, click the bell, be ready, and chime in on the conversation. And you people out there on Twitter, similar deal. Now, before we get started, I want to tell you about my great sponsors and everything, the people who make it all possible, and I'm going to list them. And one day you're going to need something. You're going to build an engine. You're going to need piston rings. You're going to have some extra cash and want to do something fun. You're going to go to Frank Hawley's. You're going to need coffee. That could happen tomorrow, of course. Or maybe your young person wants to get an education in a sport that you love and trust and believe in. All of those things are possible. But when it comes to like direct support of WFO radio, there are few better ways than getting some WFO gear. And now we've got it up on our website in the WFO store. So if you want one of these, a WFO face covering, go to WFOradio.com, and an extremely rudimentary WFO store has been crafted for you to get these easily and be ready to rock them at the big go. Now, let me tell you about the great sponsors, the people who make it possible. And, I think about the next generation, people who, maybe they're looking to go to Samtech. Yes, that's right. Blockhead CNC programs, motorsport EFI tuning. There are group of trained veterans under the GI Bill. But there's a lot worse ways to make a living than around race cars, racers, race shops, maybe even in aerospace. Go to samtech.edu to find out more information. And also, things like Frank Hawley's drag racing school. Look at this burnout. That's awesome. The problem with showing these videos now is now Frank and Lana are going to have to keep me armed with videos. Look at Frank out there. Let's watch Frank. He's just stoic, observing the mind of an expert. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, frankhawley.com. You caught me watching it. Of course, go to frankhawley.com to find out more information. Now, we are a little short on like Marvin Rodak video of Marvin roasting up the coffee. But then again, the coffee and the roaster just kind of going around like popcorn in a popper. That's pretty mesmerizing as well. 817-924-6821. And I got to lean on the guys from Total Seal to get some shop video. But I love the fact that we can show some videos and everything. We got a brand new episode of Hidden Horsepower by Total Seal coming out tomorrow prior to the DENSO U.S. Nationals. And the guest is Tom Martino. And it is great because Tom Martino, Northeasterner, got a gift of gab and storytelling. But what's interesting about Tom's story is that he's a drag racer that expanded his business into Northeastern modified racing and like the Wheelin' Modified series and some round track stuff, and immediately started to dominate because he brought the drag racing mentality into round track racing. And he tells that whole story about like what he did differently and how he did it. And it was great. But then, and of course, why Total Seal piston rings are better and he trusts them. And that's really the reason I'm telling you about it. But then he busts into Bill Grumpy Jenkins stories and Bob Glidden stories and drinking with Warren Johnson stories. So you're going to want to check this one out. Comes out 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and get it. Hidden Horsepower by Total Seal. Check out their new website. And just know, when it comes to piston rings, they can help you find the hidden horsepower. If you want some WFO gear in general, go to nitrofishracing.com. WFO 20 is the promo code. They're helping out greatly with the whole Lagana Strong t-shirts that are. Did you see the video from Alanabi that just shows the might of their organization? I know that they are all supporting Dominic, and they basically went from shop to shop all around the world and some of the different high performance locations that they have. And it was illuminating to me. Mostly, I felt great about how the world is reaching out with the GoFundMe account and the Lagana Strong t-shirts, Nitro Ninja, etc. You see, we're still flying the Nitro Ninja, and we're going to fly it until we get some good news about Dominic. But it has been amazing to see that. And all of them were wearing their shirts. That's the point. So Alan Reinhart is working on connecting from Lucas Oil Raceway. And I'm going to give you, I'm starting to give a view. He's getting in position. But before he gets in position, I'm going to welcome in some people like Ms. Enders. I keep losing internet heading through Broken Bone en route to Hot Springs, Arkansas. Please tell Alan Reinhart hello for me. I think she can see. He's about to be able to see, Janet. So hang tight. I get a "What's up, Joe Castello" from an unknown listener. If you're out there in the Facebook group, we can't see who you are unless you sign in. Another great Ignition show this week, Scott. Thank you very much. Scott, who got me all into the Jocko podcast yesterday. And there you go. Everybody's checked in. Comments, questions in the comment section. But now let's go to something much cooler than the WFO radio studio, as nice as I think it is. We got the tower at Lucas Oil Raceway and Alan Reinhart all decked out in his NHRA gear.
I'm here.
Okay. So everybody, don't tell anyone that Alan, instead, he has revamped his Tucson, Arizona shop with a green screen. And this is a photograph that he and I took last year. The green screen technology is amazing, Alan.
It is. But the green sound technology.
Yes, the sound technology is also amazing, Alan. We spare no expense for the experience of the viewer/listener on WFO Podcast. How you doing?
Good. I'm good. It's a beautiful day in Brownsburg, Indiana, and I got to through the planet.
That is awesome. Okay, so I'm glad we did not coordinate that. Look at that.
Part of that green sound technology.
Amazing. The sound and the speed and the fury. The internet is amazing, folks. They're talking about all the technology out there. This is some of it. But I really wanted to just go from now. I know we're 2 weeks out. But this is it. This is the DENSO U.S. Nationals pre-race celebration hype machine right now. And you brought a little nitro to the party. Great job.
Well, the Indy test session is, kind of a tradition. And there was a lot of talk about the fact that, we've been racing at Indy now for the past 3 consecutive events. Do we really need a test session? And a number of teams said, yes. Remember the racing we've been doing has been 2 qualifying sessions and then directly into eliminations. So having some of those extra runs to experiment, like a lot of teams are used to, just hasn't been on the table. And therefore, NHRA said, hey, if you guys want to do it, we will do it. So racetrack is open today and tomorrow. Professional teams are welcome to come out and test it. A number of them are taking them up on it, as you can see. A lot of pro mods here. A couple of the pro stock motorcycle teams. This is probably like top secret stuff that I'm really not supposed to talk about. Harley Davidson was out here. Kind of rude.
That's awesome.
Kind of spill a secret. Doug Valletta trying to make a run, but no, they were out here with their electric bikes and hot wire machines, shooting some commercials and some promo stuff that you'll be seeing at some point. But pretty fascinating. The machines are pretty cool. Angel and Eddie and Drew are all out here riding them, and I'm sure you'll see that in a Harley commercial at some point in the not too distant future.
Okay, so you bring that up. I was just scrolling my social not long ago, and I saw something. It might have been Eddie, or it might have been Mrs. Hines who put it. And I saw the guys on bikes, and I saw them accelerate. What I could not determine was that they were maybe electric bikes, and that's the thing that now is all connected together. So you can blame Tanya Hines.
Okay, I'm good with that. Yeah, she's the one that let the cat out of the bag. We all know I wouldn't do that. I got to tell you though, some of the funny things that you don't realize, and I did not ride one, but I did, kind of sit on it, get a feel for it. It's absolutely a Harley Davidson, but no clutch lever. How do you get on a motorcycle and go?
Right.
Obviously, it doesn't need one. The other thing that was monumentally funny, when they were lining up side by side and doing some launches and making some 8-mile runs, and again, they're taping all this for some upcoming promo stuff. But it was really funny because they don't make any noise.
Right.
So they would leave the starting line and one of them would go, ha, I got you on a hole shot. And the other one could hear it. So,
that's amazing. Well,
They were
Wow.
talking back to each other like about down to 100 feet or so before they got going fast enough that the wind was bothering them. But no, they're fascinating machines. They're very high tech machines, and look for one coming to your local Harley Davidson dealer very soon.
Well, what's funny to me, and I know that you are interested in, automotive technology of all kinds and technology of all kinds and anything that's generally interesting. But as we have seen things get faster and evolve, like the early versions of the electric, whatever it is they really didn't. They were the Leaf, for instance. You and I have never had a conversation about the Nissan Leaf. I wonder why. But as they've gotten quicker and faster, and they can squeal a tire,
car guides.
Right, exactly. Like that's a transportation pod. Ford is going to run their new electric Cobra jet at the U.S. Nationals, and we saw eCopo, and now we're seeing the new electric Cobra jet. It's about speed and performance, and now these electric things, whatever they are, motorcycles and otherwise, are getting to the point where they can be impressive. And look who everybody kind of comes running, like, oh, all right, interested, neat.
Yeah, well, the electronic technology has come a long ways, and obviously the battery technology has come a long ways. And I think that was what was been basically holding them back forever, because DC electric motors have been out there in all forms for a million years. But the technology to be able to power them at full power for long periods of time is what has never been. Some of the earliest electric cars, I mean, we're going way back before the Leaf, but when guys were playing with other stuff, was it okay? It would be slower, and then it would be slower, and then it would be slower. And, the recharge took so long also that was a bit of a problem. You might be able to drive the thing for half an hour, but then you'd have to charge it for 5 hours, and that obviously isn't feasible in today's world. But the battery technology has gotten so much better, and that is what I think has allowed everything to go even further. And, I watched today with the electric bikes, after making run after run after run, readout said 70% power. So they had obviously been running quite a bit, but the performance fall off was zero. They were within 100th or two of exactly what they ran when they were 100% power. So the fact that now you can come out and the technology is there that you can ride one of these, you can go out, you can eat on it, you can cover a lot of miles, and you don't have to go, okay, well, we had fun for an hour, and now let's go sit down for 6 hours while it's plugged in. So that technology has come a long way, and the rest of it is certainly following along. It would be very interesting to ride one of those on the street, though. I think, for me, for my chopper, the sound of it, it's a big part of the experience. Now, it would certainly attract a lot of attention when you pull it next to somebody. It made no noise and didn't. But I don't know. For me, the sound of it's a big part of the experience.
There we go. Oh, yeah, got a little.
No blocks were injured in.
Well, I think. So far, exactly. I think it is great that we've got a live test going on, and some people might be thinking like, oh, you guys are talking about electric cars. Oh, that's not drag racing, but that's not the case. Drag racing is all innovation, and we are going to talk nitro. For instance, you mentioned Doug Coletta in that test, and we've been talking about Doug all year long. He won the U.S. Nationals last year, and that was what a year it was. I was just kind of spending some time thinking about last year's race. You got Doug Coletta winning in Top Fuel. You got John Force, who unfortunately will not be competing in this year's race. And obviously Alex Laughlin versus Erica. Erica going to be on the show later this week in that final round of Pro Stock. Jerry Savoy winning Pro Stock Motorcycle. But it was a banner event. A lot of people kind of thought, and erroneously, of course, but after the big 60th a few years ago, that things might trail off. And really, it's gotten better and better, given the circumstance of this year and all the pent up anxiety and frustration, and how, I don't want to say we're out of the woods yet. We're not, but we're promoting ticket sales down in Dallas, and there's good things happening, and some things are changing, and we're optimistic. I'm expecting this to be a very solid performance-based event.
I think it will be also, and if you believe long-term forecasts, with all the weather that's coming into the Gulf, somebody's going to push some cooler air further north. Is what everything I've looked at from a long-term standpoint shows. So if that's the case, then I think this is going to be a very high-performance U.S. National. We've certainly had a few of them over the years that were more about survival. If the temperature is way up and the humidity is way up and the track temperature is way up, well, you're not necessarily seeing side-by-side record-setting runs. you're still seeing an exciting race, and oftentimes though it turns into a race of survival. What can we do to overcome the bad weather? But the racing surface here is very well known for the teeth that it has, and if the weather is going to be a little bit better, and I mean we're talking maybe as much as 15 degrees cooler than the last couple of times that we've raced here, then it's going to become a throwdown U.S. Nationals, where everybody can look and it's like, okay, let's see how fast you can go, not let's see who's the best tip goer out there, and that should ramp things up a little bit as well. But I'm looking forward to it. There's all of the categories are going to be here, including the factory stock showdown again. Like I said, there's a lot of pro mods that are here testing. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on. Jegs All-Stars, Mickey Thompson Pro Bike Battle is all going to be included. It's only going to be 4 days this year, but it is going to be a jam-packed 4 days to be sure.
Yeah, nonstop. Like there's a lot to run. And I've even thought about that. Like, man, we're going to be moving and grooving the whole time. Not everybody thinks about the how, the management of how to run a race schedule, but there's going to be a lot of cars. It's going to be tight, going to have to hustle. Hopefully, we'll get it in. That's not what it's about, but just, it's going to be a lot of fun with all the different elements. Jegs All-Stars, for instance, because we're going to want to give those people, they have earned a certain amount of attention just by being a Jegs All-Star, and that's a big deal.
It's just going to be one more thing that is going to be crammed into the 4 days here. Jegs All-Stars obviously normally takes place in Chicago, has for a number of years, but since we're not racing in Chicago, we had to move it someplace. Where better than here? If nothing else, it's very centrally located, so yes, there are still going to be some people that have to make a long tow, but if we try to do it down in Gainesville, everybody up in Division 6 is going to go, seriously? And if they tried to move it to Las Vegas, then obviously all the guys up in New Hampshire and Rhode Island are going to go, really? But we put it right in the center of the country, make it a part of the biggest race. And I think another interesting thing about that is I think that will give some of the guys an opportunity to come run the U.S. Nationals that maybe otherwise wouldn't have. And so I think that's another added element that just goes into it. And for those who have said, Indy's just another race, and especially this year, they're running Indy every week. Who cares? There's only one U.S. Nationals every year, and that's the one that's coming up. It is still going to be special, and everybody I've ever heard that says it's not special anymore doesn't race.
Right.
Because everybody that races understands that it still is a very special event. And
well,
it's a very special one to have that trophy in your trophy case.
And we had the Indy 500 last weekend, and there were no fans, and it was sterile. But when Takuma Sato got out of that car, man, he was pretty happy. he was celebrating, and everybody that watched at home, and Ray Hall. How about Graham was in the mix late in the running? All drag racers had to be rooting for Graham at some level because
I was.
Yeah, right. Like, come on, here's a guy who we know who will dive in and work on a funny car if he has to. And he's got a shot to win the Indy 500, but we will have fans. And that's what's going to make it a unique experience for those that come. Do you have any updated information on that formula? Somebody asked last week, it's been 25%. And, I really don't know. I've been asked now several times, like how they're going to figure that out.
I don't know either. The best thing to do is just to contact the racetrack. They can answer all your questions. I've had a couple of people send me emails to my announcer email box that says, hey, I've had these tickets for years, what's the deal? Contact the racetrack. They will get it worked out for you. I believe from some of the stuff I've heard, they kind of have a system in place. So, if you've always had this particular seat, you might not be exactly there because they're trying to line up in social distance and do what they need to do with the reserve seating. But the racetrack has a plan in place. So just get in touch with them and let them explain it. It's going to be a whole lot easier than me trying to do it.
So we got a comment up there, says Mr. 413 found 10 plus horsepower on his way to Indy. And that element, like we've got all these fans of Nitro, right? John Force winning last year was just an unbelievable moment. And yeah, maybe the lion's share of our hardcore fans and viewers, they love John and Doug Coletta. But there's this whole network infrastructure of hardcore car guy racers that care about stock, super stock, and winning class at the Big O. Now, I know it's like modified this year, like the top two in qualifying and run each other, etc. But still, like that element of it, explain it to the Nitro fan who is unaware of it.
It really kind of goes back in time a bit before you had the class breakdown and setup like it is now, where class eliminations was as big as winning the U.S. Nationals. You wanted to win your class. That's all that really mattered. And this was the one time a year when everybody would come in and race. And, you think back in the early days, it even goes back as far as, to the top fuel teams, really, when the guys out in California were hearing about, these guys in Chicago or this guy in Florida or some of this other stuff. And it was the old, yeah, sure, I bet he is running those numbers. He's at Podunk Drag Strip someplace where nobody's ever checked the clocks in 50 years, and the racetrack's probably only 1,295 feet long and blah, 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 blah. But this was the one place where everybody could get together. And with class racers, the smack talk was just as big. It's like, yeah, sure, I know your car says it's a tenth quicker than mine, but you're in Florida. What'd you do? Run that 300 feet below sea level at 4 a.m.? I'm running mine in the middle of summer out here on top of the mountain, and mine's really fast. Yours is just pretend fast. But they would all come here to Indy to battle it out and to figure it out. And that is still very special. Even though a lot of those old-time class racers are no longer involved, they certainly have passed it along to the younger generation. There are a lot of racers that have an Indy engine in the trailer. Okay, they won't break the thing out when we go to Topeka because they're just going to go in, they're going to dial it up, they're going to try to win the national event. But when you come to Indy and you take off the horsepower factory system and you run class, let's see who really has the fastest car. That's when everybody breaks out their tricks. And I think with the way that it's going to be now, it just adds a little bit more urgency to it. I love the fact that they decided to have a runoff for the class trophy when at one point they really were just going to take the low qualifier and congratulations, you won class, which is what we've had to do in the past. Sometimes if it rains, if there's other problems, we can't complete it. You just take the quickest car and he's awarded the class championship. But racing for it is special. And since there's only going to be the one qualifying session to come in, it's going to really ramp up the sense of urgency. You look at what we've done in the pro classes the last few weeks with only 2 qualifying sessions. Okay. Gone now is okay, well, let's just make an 8-mile run the first one, and then maybe we'll throw this new set of heads on and try this. The sense of urgency is ramped up because you don't have time to go through all this stuff. So if you want to win class at Indy this year, you're going to have to show up. You're going to have to be fast right out of the box. And that, as I said, I think it's just going to up the sense of urgency a little bit just to be one of the 2 cars that qualifies to come back and run it off. And the exception to the rule, I think that we should point out, is the Mopar Hemi Challenge. That is still going to run in its entirety. If we have 40 cars show up, all 40 of them are going to run. If we have 5 cars show up, 5 of them are going to run. But the Mopar Hemi Challenge is going to run in its entirety. I understand Herb McCandless is planning on coming. Obviously, 50 years ago, he won with a Hemi in Pro Stock right here. He was the first ever Pro Stock U.S. Nationals champion. And he still has a very soft spot for the Hemi cars. And from being around as long as you have, the stories he has from back in the day are just priceless. So
yes. No, you can't pry them out of him rapid enough. And just when you think like you've heard them all, like, no, there's another one, like, oh my goodness, because they were living the life back then, like all the time on the road. And it was a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week existence in the world of drag racing, super stock, pro stock, that transition, the clutch cars, just amazing. And we love Herb coming around. And that's what's been really cool about this race is it's something that everybody really tries hard to make time for, to show up at, and to be a part of. Years ago, Cameron Evans always said to me, he's like, look, you can go to all the races, but really there's like 3 that you got to be at, the finals, Indy, and, maybe the Gator Nationals, but Indy is the one, like that's the singular drag race. And that's cool. And we got to try to push it and make the people out there all be logged on NHRA.tv and otherwise. But this one in particular with the Every Round Matters championship format, boy, this is a big deal as we turn the corner. I've seen some stories out there. We addressed those rumors last week about, for whatever reason, there's a group of people that want this to be the last race for some insane reason, and they're pushing that out there. But the pushback has been strong, and NHRA has said they're going to try in a bunch of different places. That being the case, you come out of Indy with a points lead, you're in a good spot.
It's better than not having the points lead, but you'd rather go into the 4th quarter of any game up by 6 or down by 6. So, yeah, and there's a story on competitionplus.com. It's also on Bankshift, I think, that's, NHRA sources have indicated they're looking to run 8 more events after the DENSO U.S. Nationals. And I hope they do, Obviously there's a lot of venues that we're still talking to, that we're still dealing with. There's places where we will be allowed to race. There maybe are places where we wouldn't be allowed to put fans in the stands, and that doesn't work for us. We're not going to run without fans, and so we'll see what happens after that. But 8 more races would be tremendous. And there's a few people out there, and I see them in some of the chat rooms and stuff, that just like it's like they just sit there and have a box full of rocks, and they just look for any reason to throw one.
Right.
I mean, not that long ago when they said, okay, look, it looks like Gainesville, the September date in Gainesville, which I believe is 5 weeks out, whatever it is, 27, 28, 26, 27, whatever that weekend is. Right now, that looks like a go. It looks like it's going to be good. And the first thing that pops up is, oh, well, it rains and it's hurricane season.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I mean,
it does rain. And then
NASCAR went down to Daytona a couple of weeks ago, and you know what they did? When it started raining, they took a timeout, and they came back, and that's exactly what we'll do. We are doing whatever we can do to keep the NHRA on the road, to keep the race teams in business, to keep our sponsors on television, to do everything we can to make this happen. And, for those that just want to sit home and say, well, it's not going to happen, that's fine. Just stay the hell out of the way and let us take care of what we need to do. I posted in one of the chat rooms that I frequent, and everything I do under my own name, right? I'm not, secret announcer for. Everything I do under my own name. I went up and publicly said, anybody that wants to bet on whether or not we're racing, put your money up. I'm ready. And not one person.
Not one there, and there it is. And that's the I've heard it referred to as, the keyboard crew chief, but it's really what you said. There are people, I think they just have a lot of pent up and negative energy, and they got to puke it out somewhere. And so that's just one of the ways. Let me tell you about Gainesville in September. It's going to be warmer. It's going to be humid, but it's going to be a racetrack. Yeah. Who is that, by the way? That looks JR or Langdon. Come on. Sean.
I'm sorry. Every time I see a DHL car, I just still think
yeah. No, but Castello Motorsports.
Top fuel car, that's going to take some time.
Those of you who logged on to WFO today, you better start a watch party and share. You're getting a little bonus nitro test. That's kind of cool. And the camera angle is just amazing in and of itself. This is what WFO is all about. But whatever, let's not focus.
In the TV booth.
It's a green screen. None of it is real. It's all animation. This is all animation, folks. It's pretty amazing. Reinhart styled in with some animation. But instead of talking about that,
I don't have a CompuLink this.
Well, tell us what's happening, Al. Let's focus on this run by Sean Langdon.
It just signaled him into stage, so it's going to be louder.
All right, here we go. What's that thing that's blocking him from our view? It's like a square down there in the lower left of our screen. It's like blocking. We can't see him.
I ran down about the 8 mile or so. It didn't look bad. It looked record. So anyway, where were we?
It doesn't matter.
We were so rudely interrupted.
Exactly. So we got all this bonus stuff. We got Factory Stock Showdown. I'm working on a new Factory Stock podcast, kind of try to get dialed in. We got the final rounds, another new Top Fuel winner, Justin Ashley and TJ Zizzo, and all this extra stuff. I know there's going to be a lot of associated hype, but for my money, a lot of the really great stuff comes down in some of the categories. You mentioned last week, Super Street contested at the U.S. Nationals for the very first time. And I see a first-time winner in Super Street, Taylor Iacono, who won out there in Division 1 at Epping, New Hampshire, and her dad won as well, is on the entry list. How cool would that be to be a first-time U.S. National Super Street winner in the first ever U.S. National Super Street race?
Let me tell you, Taylor's pretty good at this. I mean, I've watched her race quite a bit. I do some work up in the Northeast Division, and I've seen her do a lot of racing up there. Obviously she went through the junior ranks. And if ever there was a young lady that was happier that she got her looks from her mom and her driving from her dad, I mean, Courtney Forrest and Taylor Iacono are probably, the two that did that best. I get all three of the Forrest girls, but they did that best because none of them would want to go, oh, great, I look like my dad and I drive like my mom.
Right.
Actually, I don't know if Taylor's mom races or not. So she definitely, her dad's a former world champion, and he's pretty stout anything he climbs in, and she definitely got that gene from him.
They doubled up. That had to be a great day out there. I know Brian was up there, and Johnny LaBouche Jr. winning Super Gas, Super Comp, Amanda Boychesko, Lenny Williams with that Grand Sport that I love so much, Buick, and Mike Iacono won the beats Anthony Bertazzi and Super Stock, and Pete Dagnolo. So it's like a meeting of the Sons of Italy up there as they take home the Division I race. JEGS Sports Nationals, though, unfortunately marred by rain. That's a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, that one didn't get finished, and it's going to be finished, kind of like we finished, was it Chicago? Something that we finished a couple of years ago where we're we're going to run this final here and that one over there, and these two guys are both going to be at the same 7-Eleven at 6 o'clock. Okay, we'll flip a coin for it there, and so there are going to be 3 or 4 different races where the trophies will be given out for that. But, I understand from everybody I talked to up there, they had a good time. It's a great part of the country to go hang out in. It's a great place to go race, and I'm assuming that everybody there had better luck finding lobster rolls than I did last time I was there.
Yeah, no, they all had. I saw Brenda Grubbs, Brenda and Bill. Bill was digging into a lobster. Like everybody got their lobster on out there. So maybe they knew the Arizona guy was coming in and they hid them all.
That might have been it, because the last time I was there, I searched and couldn't find one. So I was hoping I'd get invited back again, but Loans kind of elbowed me out of this one.
That guy. We put him to work on Friday, though. We checked in from the track. It was kind of cool. Eric wants to know why you're in Indy already. To me, it's like, why not? Like, you got a chance to be up there. Why would you not want to be in Indy as opposed to sitting in Tucson? But, media stuff, what is that? Eric is probing your personal business.
No, I'm actually just here for me. The test sessions are, fairly laid back, and having been at the last 3 races, but been so busy that I literally was, all but chained to the announce booth. I didn't have a chance to go out and do some of the base touching. And I've talked to a couple of the guys. There's some different technology and some new stuff that has come in that I simply don't know about. And I wanted to get a closer look at it. I wanted to be able to spend some time. And so with the teams coming here, I'm fortunate that I have a pretty good frequent flyer mile account, and I've got a couple of hotel points stashed away. So when you look at the whole thing and go, you know what, I can do this for about $32. Why not go? And so that's why I'm here. I came out here strictly on my own, just because I'm trying to do a little bit of homework, trying to get a little bit more education. I kind of pride myself on, when I see something on the racetrack, I know what happened. Or when I see a car have a problem, I know what the problem is, or I have an idea what the problem is. And, knowing how these things work, I feel helps me in my job. So when I got an opportunity to come out here and do some learning, that's what I'm here for. I'm going to school this week.
I like it. No, I like it. And I think we'll all benefit. We've got Terry McMillan lined up for tomorrow, and I'm going to ask him about that new chassis because I don't expect he's going to give us a schematic or anything, but clearly that thing worked, like whatever they figured out. And so let me ask you, how does that happen, in that you've got the best of the best out there constantly working to improve, and maybe Rob Wendland and a couple others get together and Terry shop and they say, we can come up with something in the chassis department. And, I don't think it's just luck. That new car has been going down the track really consistently and very solid. So I'm going to ask Terry, but what is your assessment of what they have done over there?
Yeah, and I'll be interested to hear what he says. I'll definitely be listening. But I think that, like anything else, there's a lot of really smart people in this business, and a lot of people that are really smart in different areas. And once you find something that works, I think it's very easy for people to get comfortable with it, right? This works. We've got a handle on this. It's, this doesn't need improving. Let's work on something else. But then there's always going to be somebody that comes along and goes, yes, we tried that. And, oftentimes it works. Oftentimes it doesn't. I can tell you from working in the engine shop all those years, we really tried some crazy stuff. And we might try 10 things that didn't work before we came up with one that kind of worked a little. And it's the same thing with these cars. They're incredibly refined. Over the years, they've gone through basically every system again and again and again, but that doesn't mean that there's no room for continued improvement. Sometimes, if you've got a guy that all he does every day is build chassis, and he's been doing this forever, his stuff works, and his cars are fast, and these guys win, then I think he kind of gets locked into the deal. Where somebody who doesn't build chassis might walk up and go, what if we made this stiffer, or what if we made this more flexible, or what if we just kind of moved the flexible? What if we did something? And who knows if it's going to work? And oftentimes when you do things like that, you end up spending a lot of time and money and finding out it doesn't work. I remember when Del Worsham built a Noodle funny car. How long ago was that? 20 whatever years ago. They built this thing, and it was flexible and moved, and they had this great idea, right? All these flexes can help, the plant tires can help, which was wonderful. The only problem they didn't foresee is you couldn't drive the damn thing because it was so flexible. You'd be going down the track doing this, and the front tires would be doing this, and the car didn't care. So it's one of those, they spent a lot of time, they spent a lot of effort, and in the end, it ended up not working out like they did. But that doesn't mean they didn't learn something from it. Sometimes it's like, okay, well, let's go crazy. Okay, that didn't work. What if we only went 25% crazy? Maybe this will work. We just can't take it that far. And there are certain things that are just lockdown restricted that you can't mess with in these cars. Just the way the rules are right now.
Just to double
there are other things that are not. And so if you run across something, why not take a look at it? If you've got the budget, you've got the wherewithal, why not?
And that's how you're going to get ahead. And that's ultimately the point in this new era where it's gone from you go to a chassis builder to then you build an in-house chassis. Then you go to the guy who's building the best in-house chassis and just buy one of his chassis. And then maybe, how do you get ahead then? How do you get ahead of that guy? You don't get ahead of that guy until you start doing something that he doesn't know about. And maybe Terry McMillan didn't feel comfortable to do that a few years ago, but now he does, and clearly it's working. I do want to mention something that I said wrong and maybe put out there in your mind, and this is my fault, Chuck. But Taylor and Mike Iacono, not related in any way.
Come on.
That's me. And so Mark Caruso mentioned it, and I just texted Jackie, and Jackie says they met on Saturday at Epping since people said they were siblings. I know. So, hey, folks, that one's on me. But, yeah, what a surprise.
I thought they were related. If you'd asked me, I'd have made that same mistake.
Iacono is not the Italian version of Smith, folks. But
they got to be related.
I don't know. We're going to dig down a little deeper on this one. But yeah, exactly. But we double checked. To me, the fact checking prowess of WFO being able to rapidly get that information was pretty cool while carrying on a chassis building conversation. Let's keep that mental side going in that whatever it is you had that you developed that you thought might work from Top Fuel down to Super Street. Now you're breaking it out now. It's been broken out. You've tested it. You figured it out. And you're going to reveal it onto the world next weekend, maybe even at this test. And that still happens.
I love the fact, and this is about as far as you can get from Top Fuel. But when you think about, stock eliminator, the number of people that have some wacky combination, some silly thing that they thought of, that they dreamed up, but they've never run because they save it to come here.
Right.
This is the one place. Where else on the planet do you see a stock eliminator car qualify 2 seconds under the index? And if they did that in Bowling Green, the rules would change. The horsepower would change. Everything would change. So they wait until they come to Indy so you can unleash it. Whether it's some oddball, one barrel, 305 cubic inch pickup with a 3-speed on the column that, the horsepower rating is 14. We can work with that. And then you bring the thing up here and you qualify 2 seconds under the index. And then NHRA adjusts the horsepower next week to 65 and you're out of business. But you do get to be the number one qualifier and the class winner at Indy if you can pull it off. So that's one of the fun things about this event also.
Yeah, that's the innovative side of the sport and one of the big draws to an event like this. Let's talk pro stock a little bit. Last year, Erica and Alex make the final round. Alex probably the craziest story of the weekend in that he kidnapped one of those downtown Indy birds and tried to drive it 14 miles or 11 miles out to the track. And it clearly was good luck. So I wonder if we're going to see a bunch of other racers pedaling a bird out to the track. That having been said, Alex's career is an arrow pointing up. This guy's got a U.S. Nationals win, and he is getting better and better all the time, winning in various disciplines of driving. But that was the spark to me that drove Erica to the championship. but I know she still wants that race win. And my eyes are on Erica this weekend. Like, I think she is going to continue at the elevated championship level. We saw her at the end of last year and at the start of this year.
Well, I think that, it was a transmission issue that cost her the race last year. Even Alex will tell you that. He was beat until she deadheaded. I think it was third gear deadheaded. And so that slowed her down and he was able to get back around her. But no, this place, Erica's had a lot of success here, but she should have had a lot more success here. I guarantee you that she can point to probably 3 different U.S. nationals where she legitimately could have or even should have won the race if something strange out of the ordinary hadn't happened. So, she's going to be fast. Jaggie's going to be fast. We saw the all Coughlin final. By the way, the Coughlins are related. I double checked while you were.
Are you sure about this?
Didn't want to go through that again. But I think the thing that I keep waiting for is Greg Henderson can bust out, because he has just been in kind of a funk all year long. I mean, they certainly have the horsepower. Look at what Jason's done. And it's not that the car hasn't run well. It's not that he's been driving awful. It's not. He just has not had one smidgen of race day anything go his direction. And he's one that I keep looking for to literally just kind of bust out at some point. I believe it's got to happen. I think the kids are going to continue to do well, and I don't mean any disrespect like that, but I'm talking, Aaron Stanfield, and I'm talking to Kyle Koretsky, and we saw what TJ did in his first couple of times that he's even been in a pro stock car. So I think that the next generation has come along. The days though when you could look at pro stock and go, okay, it's going to be one of these two, or it's going to be this person if they don't make a mistake, or those days are long gone. I think there are legitimately 10 names in pro stock that if I said, Joe, would this be a shock?
No, exactly. No, definitely not.
Maybe that's what makes it fun.
Maybe more than 10 names, because this guy beats this guy and he was the favorite and now he loses, or he or she. And that's what you want. You want domination is cool. It depends. It's got to go in cycles. Domination is cool. Like I was just talking yesterday on our Ignition show, what Kyle Larson has been able to do in sprint car racing, I think has been very good for sprint car racing, because a lot of people who just, casually pay attention to sprint car racing are now saying, wow, man, this guy is winning every race. Let me focus on this and see what's going on. And they've been treated to some interesting stuff. So pro stock goes in cycles. But right now we're not in one of those cycles. We're in a kind of a wide open cycle where anyone can beat anyone on any given run, and then they might get beaten the next round. And so who can survive the best?
I think that, week to week, things are changing. And this is strictly my opinion. You can agree or disagree. But if last week somebody would have told me, Troy Coughlin's got a good shot of winning this race, I would have gone, I don't know. It's, needs a little more experience. And, I don't know. That would have been a surprise. If today you said, Troy Coughlin's got a good shot, I said, yes, sir. Put his name on the list. Absolutely. Because of what he showed me last week.
Right.
And, pro stock cars are so technical that pro mod car has got a ton of power and a ton of torque, and you don't have to be perfect to be good. In a pro stock car or a motorcycle, you have to be perfect to be good. And almost anybody that makes the transition from something else to pro stock takes them a while to learn that. If you short shift a pro mod car by 100 RPMs, is it going to help you? No. Is it going to kill the run? No. In a pro stock car, it certainly can. And it's just, as I said, they are so technical. But I think that, because of what he showed me last week, I now put Troy Coughlin on won't be the bit surprised if he wins a pro stock race, next week or before the end of the year.
Amazing stuff. Bob Benza going to be back running pro stock. Mason McGahey going to try to qualify again. Steve Graham, Christian and Fernando Quadra, Robert River. We got 22 pro stock cars that are going to be on the property as of now. And to me, that is great. It's going to be very interesting, very fun and exciting to watch. And that's all you can ask for. Now, I do solicit questions here, Alan. I always put it up in the comment section, like, hey, if you got a question. And every once in a while, someone will put one up there that is negative, but in the neighborhood of tough questions. And I definitely don't want to avoid it, because then people are like, oh, they avoid the tough questions. And so this is negative, but tough. And he wants to know about the Chandler sponsorship ending at DSR. How's it going to affect DSR? To me, here we are going into the big go to. There's so many negative stories to discuss out there. Like, we can come up with a whole bunch of them. John Force Racing not racing. Like, is that going to be bad for John Force Racing fans? Alan, how are John Force Racing fans going to feel that last year's winner isn't showing up to the race? Is that going to be a good thing for drag racing, Alan? Like, I know the answer to that question. The answer is a simple answer. It's not good. It's going to be negative. I choose to look at the positive, and yeah, that makes me Winnie the Pooh Homer guy. Everybody attacks me for that, but it's a choice. But that having been said, you got two highly campaigned, highly successful charitable cars out there that is eventually going to end. We know that. How is that going to affect the DSR? Asks this gentleman.
And at this point, nobody knows. Obviously it's not good. You never want to lose a sponsor, no matter who the sponsor is. But Don Schumacher, I'm sure, will be out looking and beating the bushes and trying to come up with something to keep those cars on the track. The whole program started because Terry Chandler was such a giving person and had a lot of success in life and in business and wanted to give something back and loved drag racing. So that's what she did. Nobody thought that was going to last forever. No sponsorship deal lasts forever. I think that they've had a great run. I think that they have done a lot of good. And I applaud Doug, her widower, for continuing the program for 3 more years in her memory after she passed. The fact that he has opted not to do that. Okay, I get it. Would we prefer it to continue? Absolutely. Yes. Am I going to stomp my feet and yell about it? No. They did a lot of good for a lot of years. And they also had a lot of success on the racetrack, and it continues to this day. So I am going to celebrate the last however many races we have, whether it's 9 more or 7 more or 5 more or whatever it is. And I'm grateful that they were here. Every time a sponsorship ends, the whole thing comes up like this. I'd like, whoever asked that question, I'd like to ask him this. If I told you I have a sponsor deal for you, it's 5 years long. It might go 7 or 8 years, but it's going to end. Do you want it? Or are you going to go, well, I'm going to be so upset when it ends, I just not start? No, they did a lot of good. They have been a tremendous partner with DSR and with all of the charities that they've helped. And there have been a number of them over the years. And I'm going to applaud that, other than cry about the fact that they're gone. Hopefully, Don will be able to keep those race cars on track. They're constantly in search of sponsors. And we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, and so he's apologizing, and I didn't mean to be on attack mode either, but I just am kind of pointing out, sorry if it was negative, was honestly interested in your opinion, a major sponsor leaving, etc. And listen, there are no bad questions, but to me, it's obviously a bummer, man, but I like to look at it as we had, just like what Alan just said, as we said at the start, when you can choose to focus on something positive or choose to focus on something negative, and which one are you going to choose? It's as simple as that. And so they were in the sport. They had a great run. They employed all these people. They raised money for these charities that a couple of them, I didn't know anything about what they did other than that they existed. And now I personally know how hard they work and what they do and what they've seen. That positive effect is going to last a long time in the drag racing community. We're getting ready for the biggest race in the sport. We're in a pre-race celebration mode, thrilled to have the opportunity at all. And so, I ask the question because I don't want anyone thinking we're afraid to tackle tough questions. We will tackle tough questions. But that one, I feel like, man, obviously, if you work on those teams, now you're thrown into what's going to happen mode, which we've all lived in that for 4 or 5 months now. So that is all. So, by the way, H Crazes, keep the questions coming. But now you kind of understand my methodology as to how I present questions to Alan, etc.
It's never good when a major sponsor decides to leave the sport or decides to make a change. But it's inevitable in the business. It's as simple as that. People sometimes come in for a long time. People sometimes come in for a short time. We welcome everybody that wants to come in and get involved with NHRA on whatever level you want to do it. And if somebody came in and said, hey, look, I got a deal that's only going to last 3 years. Do you want it or not? Nobody in the world, nobody in his right mind is going to say, nah, I don't want a 3-year deal. If it's not 10, forget it. I'll take what we can get. Maybe you can stretch that 3 years into 5 years. Maybe you can do something else. But we love when people come out here and just give us a look. Just come out and see what we got to offer. See what we do as far as fan interaction, as far as different different things that you can do to either connect with new customers or to entertain the customers that you have now and see what we've got to offer. I think NHRA's got a lot to offer. It's never good when a sponsor leaves, but I would rather look at all the good that was done while they were here, especially in a situation like this, where the good that was done isn't measured in how much did our sales go up?
Right.
It's measured in how many people were we able to help. You know as well as I do, Joe, you've been by there. When you see some of those Make-A-Wish families have an opportunity to come out and be a part of the team, that's their car, and they get, and you know how special it is and what a treat it is for those families to be able to put some of their troubles aside. And I don't need you can't put a price tag on that. It's something Terry Chandler wanted to do. That I think I'm going to miss more than anything else in the program is just the good things that they did for people that just needed to have a good day. They just needed a good day,
right?
And they were able to provide that for a lot of families.
Right. Mr. Linfoot, for instance, just so the relationships that we have built, it is super positive when they leave. And a lot of people don't realize, and I've heard this, Doug, that's not drag racing's not his thing, man. That was Terry's thing. And, Terry, of course, Johnny Gray, Terry Chandler, Doug Chandler comes into this thing. It's just like, I like it, but it's not like my thing. He had zero obligation to keep this thing going any longer than he did. He kept it going for a while, and they're still going this year. And who knows what, like you said, Alan, like you just never know. You get someone for 6 months and then they stay for a year and then they stay for 5 years because it works. That's why, sponsor conversations to me are almost pointless because you just don't know. You see who shows up and you celebrate the ones that do show up, and you do your best job for those people. And that's it. And when they move on to something else, you thank them, because 5 years from now, they may cycle back around. We're back to ready to be involved with drag racing again. You just never know.
That's exactly right. We've seen it time and time again over the years. When somebody goes, you know what? Okay, we're gonna change directions. We decided instead of doing NHRA, we're gonna go with roller derby. And okay, maybe they go over there and it doesn't work out. Maybe it's not what they expected it to be. Maybe the return doesn't come back as strong. Maybe their interaction with fans isn't what they dreamed it would be. And maybe they'll come back and give drag racing another look. So, these things, again, Doug Chandler kept this going 3 years longer than the original deal because he knew how much it meant to Terry and because he wanted to do something nice in her memory to keep the program going. I applaud that. I'm sorry that it's ending, yes, but I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm going to dwell on the fact that he kept it going 3 consecutive years, 3 years farther than it had to, and I appreciate it.
WFO tackles the tough questions on WFO Live with Alan Reinhart. Alan, any final thoughts in that? I know the test is ongoing, so new information is being created as we speak. We're going to have some big guest hits later on this weekend. Going to maybe, dial into a couple of things. But if you're on a race team, what are you thinking about now? Like pre-race jitters, all that stuff. I don't think that kicks into gear until race morning, that kind of stuff. But you definitely want to make sure all your equipment is squared away at this point.
That's exactly it. If you're on a race team right now, whether you're here testing or whether you're not, and I know that there's at least 4 or 5 cars that are going to come in and make a couple of runs tomorrow also that aren't here yet today. But if you're on a race team right now, you're making sure that all of your equipment is perfectly prepared so that if there comes a need, you're not searching around, you're not thrashing around, you just know where it is, right? You come into this race, and if you run all the qualifying stations and win the race, you're going to run 7 runs in a nitro car. So does that mean that you've got 4 sets of heads put together and a bunch of parts over there in a pile just in case you need them? Of course not. It means you've got 9 sets of heads put together. So if you put one on the car and it's like, oh my God, something's wrong with it, get it out of the way, grab me another one, let's go. And that's what everybody is doing right now. They're making sure there's an old adage that the real racing is done before you leave the shop. And I think that is very true here. Listening to TJ Zizzo talking to Brian Lones on the podcast the other day, and he made a point of that. So, in years past, we had a limited inventory. So we would be at the racetrack. Sometimes we'd be there late Friday night or late Saturday night because we were servicing. He said, we go to the racetrack now and we don't plan on servicing anything. We've got enough cylinder heads. We've got enough clutch packs. We've got enough everything that we just swap stuff out at the racetrack, go about our business. When we get home, then we go into it. And if we have an issue, we're prepared for it much better now than we were. And I think you can see the performance the ways he's stepped up over the last year or 18 months, that kind of mentality really does pay off. There's certainly an investment involved in that. But when you get to the racetrack, you don't want to have to still be doing shop work. When you get to the racetrack, you want to be racing.
That's it. Simple as that. Alan, great job as usual. Any cars in the lanes or in the water box before we let you go? Anything close?
No, nothing in the water box, and I don't see anything in the lanes right now, but I imagine that I'll wrap around here again in about 30 minutes or so, and we'll have another session. So
Excellent. Alan, great job as usual. Appreciate the green screen and all that stuff that you did to make this appear as if you were actually in the Indy Tower at the test. Amazing stuff. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward. I'll be seeing you next week, and we're going to be celebrating the big go for 2 weeks on WFO. We're going to get closer next week. We'll have more thoughts and questions and probably a lot more data to talk about. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
All right, Joe. You enjoy. Have a good week, and I will chat with you next Tuesday.
Excellent. Thank you, Alan. There he goes, the voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart. No, I got to get rid of him. I don't like to single him out. Like, there he is, Alan Reinhart. Thank you very much, Alan. There he goes. Appreciate it, everybody. So, okay, what did we learn? All right, first of all, I want to talk to my listener right here. This guy who asked the tough question. You actually, sir, have done a great service to the show. So I don't want you feeling bad in any way, because I am asking for questions. We put up the banner that says, what does it say? It says, do you have questions? Use the comment section. It does not say the type of questions or what kind of questions. And so you just ask the question. So your number one thing that you did was participate. That is great. And that's what I want. But at the same time, we were touching on the fact that there are, I believe Alan said, people who have a box of rocks that they're just looking to throw. And I know that there are people out there who are watching on Facebook who see that tough, challenging question. Like, wow, Doug Chandler is the charitable cars sponsorships may be ending at the conclusion of the season. Certainly that's been discussed and it's been put out there and you asked it. And so are we not going to answer it? Am I going to brush over it, even though I feel like it's a bit of a buzzkill question? Like, it's a bit of a buzzkill question, man. Like, we get to this party and the party is awesome and there's beautiful women everywhere and everybody's having a good time. Like, what time's this party over at? Like, oh man, why are we thinking about that right now? Right? Who's going to clean up this mess? It's a good question. Who is going to clean up this mess of a party? But now is not the time to ask that question. And that little general philosophy I just shared with you is something that I care about when we're telling a story. Like, there'll be a time to ask about who's going to clean up the mess of the party later. But right now, let's not dwell on that because it's negative. Now, your question was in that wheelhouse. Like, oh man, like the DSR sponsorship negativity. Like, oh man, bummer. There's going to be guys. Are they going to have jobs? Who's going to feed their families? How are they going to pay their rent? Oh my gosh, this is all terrible. Do I want to address it? And in this case, we did. We put it up there. Why? So I can have this talk right now. No bad questions, but, timely questions. Now, you came back with a really good one. And the fact that you're involved, I'm hoping everybody understands, like, whatever it is, we're going to work right through it and get right past it. Like with Sam Pay's, when do you feel like she's finally turned the corner? The answer is yes, I do. And Angel was on the show a few weeks ago. I didn't hit Reinhart with this one because he answered the question last week. And the answer is yes, absolutely. I think that anytime you train with a 50-pound bag on your back and then someone takes it off, you're going to have extra performance. And Angel has been working really hard. If you watch her interview with us on WFO, she poured her heart out about how personally challenging this was, and that all the work she has done in the gym has been directly related to the additional muscle that is required to ride the bike. And now she's got confidence and she's got a quick and fast bike. So do I expect Angel to win out? No. Do I expect Angel to win another one? Yes. Do I expect Angel to win 2 more? Yes, very possibly. And if you're a fan of Angel, rock your gear, get loud for her, because that's what this sport needs. It needs people supporting their drivers, supporting their teams with fervor and excitement. And when they do well, go buy something, email Harley, get on their page, that kind of stuff. That's what drag racing needs, because we're in a new time now. It's kind of a new era, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Get your final comments into the comments section, and I'll start off with this one. Like, all right, first of all, where was that question? Okay, back to this one. My bad, completely get it. I destroyed the moment. Knowledge is power. Thank you for understanding. And if you send me your email address, I'll send you a WFO mask as a barter for the horrific injustice you've perpetrated upon the show. Okay? We'll trade out for that, H Crazes. I just have no idea who you are. I know you're out there on the Twitter machine. Get on it. Okay. What day is this party over? I believe it's Labor Day is when it's over, because the racing ends on Sunday, but that's a holiday. So it's even going to be great that we have a holiday. We don't have to go back to work. A lot of people have been talking about that. Like, should the race be run on Sunday instead of Monday, because people want to enjoy, et cetera, and so on. I don't think we should adopt that, but I'm definitely going to be monitoring what it feels like. It's travel day for me, so it doesn't even matter. Let's see what John says. This is Mark Caruso. Mark Caruso, who's a friend. How can you not be a fan of Angel? Yeah, I don't know. I'll tell you a secret. When I was a little kid and Angel came on the scene. All right, first of all, I wasn't a little kid. I was a young man, but I didn't like Angel. I wasn't just going to go with the brand new lady driver that just comes into the sport. That's not how I go. Like, the brand new person who just got here, I'm going to root for them. This is not the way I do it. I like the old guard, typically. People I know, people I've seen them through the fight, that kind of deal. And Angel absolutely reached into my chest and pulled out my heart and took a bite out of it and earned my respect. You can't not respect Angel. Comes back, has that foot injury, that horrific nightmare of a foot injury, fights through it, keeps going, run for Harley, wins a race. Come on. Angel is like one of our great personalities. There could be a movie about Angel. If there wasn't already a movie about Shirley Muldowney, right? Like, how many movies can we get made? Let's see. Monica, thanks for the great show as always. Yeah, final questions, final comments put in there. Here's from a Facebook user who I do not know. In the words of Joe on my podcast, against the grain for personal gain. Absolutely. That is my saying that I have coined. Against the grain for personal gain, which means that Sam Smith, who does the In the Groove podcast, I was a guest. He asked me all kinds of uncomfortable questions. I did my best. Superbike Mike, that's a Miami Hollywood Speedway racer. Superbike Mike back in the day. Remember that? What's up, Jim? Jim's got a mask on his way, I believe. Certainly. I did get one mask sent back to me. I did not put enough postage in it. I guess it got a little too fat. JJ says, I would watch Alan and Joe race each other every weekend if that's what was available. We would try to make it entertaining. I can tell you that Alan and I would try to make it entertaining. He's got a bracket racing background, and do I. He's very rusty, as am I. I think it would be a great race. I think we would have a lot to laugh at. I think there would be a lot of humor. Ronnie says, do you think Mike Green stays with Tony Schumacher if they get a sponsor for next year? All right, let's talk about questions. Here's another totally vague question, which if you're a fan, and this is Sports Talk Radio, and this is Sports Talk Radio or drag racing, and this is, I should just go into the question, but I can't help but bristle at the nature of it. So many unknowns, known unknowns, like if they get a sponsor and if they all do that, and depending on who's available and how they run. I can tell you this. If Mike Green tunes Tony Schumacher to a win or two in the next 6 races that they race, and they get a sponsor, the answer is yes. But if they go out first round and blow off the tires and show no continuity and it just doesn't work out, then the answer will be no, assuming there is a sponsor. It's just choices and options. If then. And I choose to look at everything as a series of if and thens. Like, if this happens, then this might happen. Simple as that. So once again, Joe yelling at people for asking good and qualified questions. Sorry, people. It's just today. Larry McBride, Spider-Man. Great show, Joe. Got to get back to work. Thank you very much, Larry. I did send out, I believe I sent out your face covering. You will be checking your mail in about a month. So check that. Great Ignition show this week. Yeah, the Ignition show. Something that it's audio only. It's podcast for listeners only. And have a lot of fun. So many ifs. Yeah, like once you get past the third if then, I just, I guess if this happens, then what will happen? Well, then we have 10 choices of what may happen. Okay. And then you can go down, and this is what the military does. One of our listeners, Scott, this guy, the other day I mentioned Chesty Puller on the show somehow, right? United States Marine Corps. My dad, Marine, Chesty Puller. He starts mentioning that there's a podcast, Jocko, that did a whole thing about Chesty, the book on Chesty Marine. And so this guy, 3 hours of my life yesterday spent listening to Chesty Puller stories pulled from the book. And, you know, just trying to remember all the great things that my father has told me over the years and apply them to the stories of Chesty. Like, you know, when attacking, you forget the flanking maneuvers, the closest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Attack. And that is useful in things other than battle. It was pretty interesting. And so you can spend a lot of time thinking about different things. That's what the military does. If this happens, then we have these 10 choices and we have to game out every possibility of all 10 and then take it forward. Racers and crew chiefs do that as well. If we blow all our engines before first round, like what do we do? What happens? Well, there's a plan. There's a plan in place. And so I'm all for that. But when you get to like the third layer, I think it's hard to keep people up on what's going on. Phil wants a mask. If you see me at the U.S. Nationals, Phil, I'll have one. I will say that the WFO store is stocking them on WFOradio.com. They're $10, and that includes shipping. I feel like that's very fair. So if you go to WFOradio.com, Phil, I think we've underpriced a lot of the masks out there, face coverings. Go to WFOradio.com. And it will come in this fantastic little sanitized package. So you know that it has not been on my mug at all. And you can enjoy one. And also there's the link to nitrofishracing.com and the promo code WFO20. So you can get yourself a WFO radio t-shirt as well, Phil, or anybody else who is interested. Let's see. Scott, your anniversary post about Chesty's first Bronze Star started it. Yes, thank you very much, Scott. And that was my dad. You know, I rarely talk about my dad, but he's clearly the guiding, him and my mother. I'm an only child, the guiding focus of my life as a Marine Corps drill instructor. He was, I think he'll be the first to tell you, totally brainwashed by the Corps. And that's how I was raised. Stories of Chesty, that kind of stuff. And I didn't go exactly down that road, but I keep it close to my heart. And the examples, I think I quote very often, improvise, adapt, overcome, these kind of thing. But man, that man was amazing. Chesty Puller. Never won the Medal of Honor, politics, political, and the chain of command, fighting Marines versus barracks Marines, all these different things, all these different stories. It was great. Scott, thank you for putting me onto that podcast. It was great. I like people to be able to take something positive out of it. And now, fortunately, I've got that all my life. My dad seems like a great guy. Yeah, he does seem like one. I'm waiting for him to, it's never happened yet. Never happened yet where I felt any kind of negativity or doubt about anything that has happened. And I do that when I choose the relationships. I think about that when I choose the relationships and the people that we support. You can't just come to WFO with a couple of bucks and get on the show. And that's why Marvin Rodak has been on for a few years, like 8. Because Marvin Rodak is a great person and a wonderful human being who knows and understands drag racing and has been at the track when a racer was in need of help and dropped what he was doing and started turning wrenches. That Marvin Rodak is roasting fresh coffee blends for race teams like Tony Schumacher, the Schumacher Champion blend a couple of years ago, which Tony actually gave credit to winning the U.S. Nationals in the winner's circle. I think he was like, that was incredible. Call Marvin, 817-924-6821. It's the kind of thing, these relationships hopefully will continue on for long times. And the day that they end, I will not lament the end of the relationship. I will pay tribute to what happened along the way. That's what you're supposed to do, to the good times. Total Seal Piston Rings, good times are happening right now. Brand new website, totalseal.com. I personally am learning more about piston rings than I've ever thought I could learn. It really wants me, it's making me want to pull the engine out of my race car and make sure I've got good ring seal, because ring seal is really everything. That's where it all is. And so if you're building an engine, we're talking about your Camaro for the street or your Formula One racer. They have the technology. Got a brand new episode of Hidden Horsepower, Apple Podcast, Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcast. Tom Martino You might not care about piston rings at all. You will laugh at the Glidden, Jenkins, and Warren Johnson stories. You got to remember, Tom Martino was running Pro Stock with and against all of those guys. He was in the era. He goes over to the Grump and asks an opinion. What happens? Bob Glidden is backing him up from a burnout and was critical of his driving. What happens? It's after the race and Warren Johnson is serving up alcoholic beverages to Tom Martino. What happens? I can't tell you. You got to listen to the podcast. Hidden Horsepower, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. The reason it exists is so that you learn more about piston rings, ring seal, and the cutting edge technology they have. It's pretty amazing stuff. Pretty amazing stuff. Also, Frank Hawley's drag racing school, the Dragster Adventure, Frank and Lana Hawley. Frank, obviously one of the greatest funny car drivers of all time, one of the great racing minds. And I like to think, like, how can we get Frank more business? And he's got a couple of different business plans. Clearly, training champion race car drivers is one of them. But giving drag racers the thrill and experience with like a little thrill ride, the Dragster Adventure, is another one of them. But I really think that you bracket racers out there, for the investment, what you get, you could literally pay for the investment in the first race out if you've never won, if you've never gone rounds. Sportsman racers, you're a super gas racer, you think that you can't learn anything from Frank Hawley, you're absolutely mistaken. Think about a guy like Jack Beckman, who taught at the school, who goes on to become a Super Comp world champion and then a Mellow Yellow world champion. Why? Who selected him to do the job? Why? Frank Hawley, very knowledgeable person. It's pretty amazing. And samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. This whole thing that we're into, the next generation, where are they going to come from? Who is going to be the next generation? You, a 14-year-old young person who loves your dad and your mom and they're into racing, and what are you going to do with your life? There's a lot of things you could do. You could go be a doctor. That'd be great. We need doctors. You could help in the first responder area. You would love it. You have money to go racing. Like Dr. Phil Surface. Look what a great job he has done. You could do that. Or you can become a CNC machinist programmer. And maybe you're programming your CNC machine to make medical devices that are going to save lives, or cylinder heads, or aerospace components for SpaceX. Like, you just don't know. The foundational education still comes from a place like Samtech, with people who are willing to share their knowledge. And to tie the two together, Judd Massengill has been name-checked on Hidden Horsepower several times as a great person to get a foundational education, because we ask all of our guests, like, give some advice to the next generation. And several of them have said, go to Samtech. And that's unsolicited, but informative. Drives me to the point. Hey, do you want something for free? Yeah, free. Like, Joe, your $10 mask. No, man, you're not getting any money out of me. Not even to be in compliance and rep WFO radio. The answer is no, Joe. No. Okay. Would you like something for free? WFO radio stickers. If you send a self-addressed stamped envelope to the address on the screen, P.O. Box 848-353, Pembroke Pines, Florida, 33084, I will put some stickers in an envelope and send them back for free, because I want you to rep the show. But if you get the mask, they're probably going to be in there anyway. There's very little chance that the mask is going to be in with the free stickers, but there is a high probability that the stickers will be in with the $10 mask. Just think about that. Think about that. All right, I got nothing else. Hopefully you got final comments up there on the screen. Let's see. The virus. Oh, gee, the virus. The virus stuff sucks, but it's been a great year for me and my son, 3 races at Indy in 1 year. What is it? When life gives you lemons, make lemonade, something like that. Exactly. There are things that are out of our power. You got to take them and you got to make the best out of them. And that's it. And the guy who called me Winnie the Pooh, like, Joe's always a positive thing. That also comes from my dad, because I was raised, like the Marine Corps, it's not torture per se, but they're definitely doing a lot of things that the average person can't do, like 10-mile forced march first thing in the morning. And Dad always said, when you're in a foxhole with a guy and he's complaining the whole time, emphasizing the negative, talking about the negative, thinking about the negative. Everybody knows about the negative already. We got it. It's negative. We know it. Human instinct. You notice the negative first. No, much more powerful word than yes. Everybody focuses on the negative. The negative is the worst. Everybody knows it. So then when you have someone who's constantly emphasizing the negative, are you aware of the negative? Do you know about the negative? What's up with the negative? What do you think about the negative? What do you feel about the negative? How is the negative going to affect you in your life? Oh my gosh, man, it just makes the negative so much worse. So I choose to be positive, but that's a choice. And I know it's not for everybody. I know there's a lot of people that they're not into it. They're not down with it, but that's all right. You don't have to watch. You can do other things. There's lots of other things to do. Like get ready for the big go, the DENSO U.S. Nationals. Oh, yeah. Now, at the end of the show, you see that Nitro Ninja flying up in the corner, Dominic Lagana. I've received no new news. And so I'm going to end off where we started off, which is there's a GoFundMe page. The donor numbers are going up. Not fast enough. Would love you to get on there and do something positive. And if you don't want to do the GoFundMe, get yourself a Lagana Strong t-shirt from nitrofishracing.com. And if you know that promo code, I would not use it. Not in that one. I would avoid using it. For that one, I would do separate transactions. That's how crazy I am. Every dollar. We're thinking about you, Dom. That's for sure. I know that if Dom was okay, he and I would be texting about how the New York Yankees are like the walking wounded, and you've got everybody on the IL. And request for number 28 appears to have hit a bit of a snag. We'll be all right, though. Judge is coming back. I think Judge comes back today. There, Judge. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Wednesday, Terry McMillan, competition eliminator racer, Ed Federkyle, Drag Illustrated editor, Nate Van Wagner. That's Wednesday. Thursday, I believe Erica Enders and other guests to come. Friday, happy hour. You're saying, oh my gosh, there's an extra show this week. Yes, there is. It's Indy, baby. And then next week, K-Mac, Kevin McKenna from NHRA National Dragster. Speaking of which, thanks to NHRA for posting our JEG interview. And that's it. This is now a celebration of NHRA drag racing. Get in, get ready, have fun. Send me your guest requests. We'll try to get them on the show. All right, everybody. See you next time right here. WFO.